Hello, everyone. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see and hear me? Good morning, Julia, Alexandra, and Pia. It's wonderful to see you here. Could I get an indication whether you can hear me loud and clear? Beautiful, beautiful. Welcome to Mindful Making and this 45 minutes live with me. I am Jane, and I'm coming to you from Hornsby Heights, which is just north of Sydney in Australia. And I know that we are connecting from around the world, which is just the most amazing and beautiful thing about this Knitathon, that it is a worldwide event. And I've just put in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, just write where you are joining from and possibly what you are working on. But this is also to create that sense of that we are here together. And yeah, we have friends from Denmark and friends from Sydney. So I know Julia, just 5 houses down the road, is sitting in front of her computer. It's lovely to see you here. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge country. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I am recording this video live from today. I am on Darug Ku-ring-gai land, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And I extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who might be joining in live or watching the video in its replay. Welcome all, and if that's the first time you have heard an acknowledgement of country, this is Australians showing respect from our ancestors here in Australia. This country was never ceded, and it always will and always was and always will be Aboriginal land. And I will try to follow through the chat. I can't promise that I can answer any question or see all questions. And if you have any further questions, you can pop them in the comments box under the video as well, and I will respond to them afterwards. Also, if you are watching this video in its replay, I recommend that you open the live chat so you can follow on what people are saying while you're watching. I think it's wobbling a bit here, because that just increased that experience of being with us live. But we have 47 people joining this live, which is absolutely amazing. Here in Sydney, it's Sunday morning, and I know in Europe, it's about bedtime, and possibly for some of you, it's after your normal bedtime. It's 1 a.m. in the morning. And in the States, you are probably starting to prepare dinner. So it's beautiful just to connect around the world. What I wanted to talk about today in this live session is a bit of the normal things, wearing, finished, ongoing projects. But first, if you are new to the Mindful Making channel, I am Jane and I am a Danish Australian. I have lived in Australia for more than 10 years now. Moved here in 2012 with a family of 5 with 3 school kids, and yeah, still enjoying it here now. The kids are, tall young people. So I carry the Danish inherited or my Danish roots, and add in the Australian outdoorsy mateship, all the good things about Australia as well. So it's a beautiful mix of two parts of the world. Yeah. Washington, Connecticut, Denmark, Sweden, Australia. Yeah. And you can say hello to each other if you and Norway. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. If you've seen each other from during the past live sessions, say hello again. I find it quite interesting that connecting throughout these 24 hours. Okay, I am wearing the gum knot tee. It's one of my designs, and one that I like very much, and I think a lot of you have already knitted it, and thank you for that. It is a round yoke, seamless knit with these gum knot patterns sitting here on the yoke. This is worked in a merino bamboo blend, and what I've used for the gum knots are super soft and titicaca held together in a sort of fading color flow. You can decide whatever colors you want. And even I've also seen one that has just done it in one color, and then you just get the texture of the gum nuts. Looks beautiful. You can go wild with colors in the top section here, or muted, or so it's up to you. And I know many of you in Denmark have knitted here for the their top braid knit along, and thank you for that. And I see them popping into my Instagram feed, where you kindly tag me so I can see them. They look absolutely beautiful. Just to say, if you want to find me after this live as well, my website is mindfulmaking.com.au, where you can find knitting patterns. And I also carry yarn in my yarn shop, so an online shop there. There are links to this channel, the YouTube channel, and also Instagram, where I'm mindful making, Ravelry, mindful making AU. So that is all the admin details. What I'm wearing. Then I thought to move on to finished objects. I have to be careful with the table here. So if you have watched some of the previous podcast episodes, you would have seen in the last one that I knitted a lot of socks. And I have finished an additional pair of socks. And they are these self-striping socks in a Lule yarn. Unfortunately, that dye stopped dyeing yarn. So this was one of the last yarns that was available. And this is then the final pair of socks. I had knitted one pair as well before, and I just added in a one mini from a advent calendar as the cuff, heel, and toe. So this was actually two pairs in one ball of yarn, and this is what is left. Ooh. Tiny little nugget of yarn. Yeah, no more socks. Maybe a little stripe somewhere, but yeah, that was well used. So we have Denmark, Minnesota, Bulgaria as well. Bulgaria knitting. It's not a sweatshirt, from Knitting for Olive, Minnesota, Denmark. And Denmark, Glomsø, Clapton sweater from Isabel Kramer, Lykstør. Thank you. Lone says, A beautiful potterware. Thank you. Yeah, you have to knit it. I have to say. Thank you so much, everyone. So that was the finished objects. Now, what is on my needles? Admittedly, I've only basically started the knitathon now because it was when you all started in Europe. It was 11 p.m. here. So yeah, so I slept during the night, and I will basically start now. And then I'm looking forward to watching all the lives that have happened over the last 8 hours. So I will be busily knitting all day. And well, actually, when I started putting notes together for this live, I looked at the notes from last time, the last knitathon, which was in October last year. And I am working on the same project as I did back then. Yeah. So it is a, whoops, sorry. It is basically combining a breezy summer tea with a gum knot pattern because it's a fine yarn. So it's a gauge of the breezy summer tea, and then I've added in these gum knots. Let's see, here it is. Let's see if we can use the light. It comes up much more blue on the screen. It's a gray teal main color, and then a olive green gray in the gum nuts. So I've added extra rows or rounds of the gum nut pattern, and this is how far I've gotten. And let's see if if it will return in the next knitathon. Maybe this will be my ongoing knitathon project. Yeah, but it's super light, super beautiful. It will be absolutely amazing when done. The yarn, yeah, I can't remember what it is called. See, this is the light coming in from the window. It looks blue here on the screen. It doesn't actually show its true color. And then this gray green contrast. It is a I can't remember. But there is some cashmere in here in this yarn and silk, beautifully soft and very thin. So it runs 1,000 meters per 100 gram. So it is very, very fine. But this will get some love and a few rounds. So that is a work in progress. Another work in progress I talked about in the past episode as well, which is the antique flora, which is a design by Wool and Pine. Beautiful color work throughout the round yoke and just under as well the splitting for sleeves. The main color, no, not the main color, the contrast color is this. And let's see here. It is a wonderful mix of peachy, orange, yellow, green, reds. It's a sock yarn from It's Yarn, and it's called rabarber in Danish, which is rhubarb in English. Beautiful, beautiful colors. I think it, no, keep it here. Yeah, that is the contrast color. And then I did choose, because in the last episode I was wondering which main color I should choose. I did choose this brown. It is a mustardy brown. It is super soft from Holst yarn, and I have it in the shop as well. And the colorway is called Cinnamon. This is also a beautiful sort of mix of light, darker brown, orange tones, and this mustardy warmness to it, if that's even a word. Oh yeah, in Maryland, US, on a Musselburgh. Yes. So this is how far I have come. I have completed I have actually completed the body. Yeah. And the color work, I love it. And it's just been an absolute joy to knit. So the color work pattern changes each round, so you have to be on your toes to work this. But it basically flew by. I think I knitted this top section in a week because it was just so much fun. My gauge is like, again, well, I did in the last episode of the podcast, I had a dark green and I was down here sort of after splitting for sleeves, but it was too small because I didn't swatch and tried it on, too small. So I've gone up a size and this is much better. It fits beautifully and I'm very happy with how it has turned out. On to the sleeves, and I'm looking to see if this, I'm hoping this will be right here under the sleeves. But it's quite an interesting, I'm about to say setup, where cast on and then carry a color work pattern down these cast on sleeves under the arm. Yeah. But one sleeve is in the works, and then the next sleeve will be added soon. It will be a lovely warm, but not too warm jumper, and the color work stitches will even out when washed and blocked. You see the sun is beautiful coming in this morning. Yeah, I am happy, and I'm also happy that I decided to go for lesser contrast than there was originally with the dark green and this orange. Yeah, antique flora, can recommend. Finally, oh, just sorting out things here. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a gorgeous design and beautiful colors. Thank you so much. Yesterday, I had this idea of a possible new design. So yeah, and where did I put my notes? Where did I put my notes? Here. And I thought I would just show you how far I've come. And this is a a very rudimental drawing. I'm not an artist, and I'm not very at any drawing whatsoever. But round yoke with a lace pattern moving down throughout. Yeah, so that's the idea. And I have started, and I'm using 2 strands of coast yarn, which is a cotton and wool blend held together. This color, if you can see, is a very deep dark brown. It's called Conquer. So I'm holding 2 strands together and knitting on a 4mm, so US 6 needle. And Yeah. Trying to entangle everything and finding the back, the front. Not easy, not easy, not easy. So we have here, we have here, we have here, we have here. This is the front. So it's lines of this color lace, and then increases sitting within the lace, so they are invisible. And then I have added short row shaping in the back in between these repeats of that little squiggle. Can you see it? Sort of somehow like this, maybe. And then what are you saying? Love the colors too from Melbourne. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Yes, the name of this brown color is Conquer. I can just write it in the, I will just write Coast Yarn Conquer. That's the brown yarn that I'm using. And I've, as I said, I'm holding 2 strands together. I am wondering though, if it will be too big and whether I can pull out, but maybe that's done with blocking, that I can just, open up the lace. But that is what I am working on, those 3 projects. So throughout the day today, they will get a bit of attention each. And let's see where I'm at the end of the day when we finish up at around, well, that will be 11 p.m. here in Sydney. So that is what is on the needles, which is a fair bit. I thought I would also just share a bit about the design process. I'm a self-taught knitting designer. I have plenty of books sitting over here on the shelves that help me along and trying to get the numbers and the dimensions and the body shapes right. I find it actually a bit tricky. I don't know if any designers out there, you agree that it is sometimes a bit tricky to get your idea to fit different body shapes. So what I thought I would just I have it here. I have a little notebook here on my table. So for me, it takes a lot of time. I have a full-time job and a family, so it's sometimes close to impossible. That's true here. And so knitting is my hobby as well as what designing is. And I must admit that after a long day on the computer, that is not what I want to spend my spare time on. Working on and pattern writing is a lot of computer work. It's a lot of calculations, and of course there are a lot of knitting involved as well, which is the easy and the fun part. But I wanted to share the story of a design that was finished, I think, well, not a design that was finished, but that I had thought of 1.5 years ago. So it's just telling how long sometimes it takes. So the design is moving back and forth. So you might have, if you've seen other podcasts, it's sort of a vest with a running texture down the body, throughout the body. And yeah, works really well. And I have knitted the sample a long time ago, and it's here. You would have seen it before if you've seen some of the previous podcasts, but it has this slip stitches running up. It's knitted bottom up. And this is a beautiful possum yarn, merino possum blend from an Australian hand dyer, Louis and Lola. And now, you know, I thought, okay, this has been sitting here for such a long time. Let me get this over the line and onto some paper. And then I started working these, you know, writing up is sleeve decreases. And even though, I don't know, maybe I overthink things, because this is a fairly simple pattern when you sort of have it established. And I was thinking, oh, could I just write, well, continue pattern as established and bind off, you know, different number of stitches for the armhole shaping. And then I thought, maybe that's just too simple. And then I moved into writing up, because it's easy enough when you get into the repeats of the pattern, but it's here how many stitches sit before this slip stitch. This is very nerdy. Disclaimer, very nerdy. So I went on to then I went on to, let's see if we can see, writing up each side. You know, the right, no, this is the left side and right side. You know, how when you bind off, and then how many stitches before this slip stitch pattern started. And I've done that for 6 or for 10 sizes. And then moving into writing it up, it actually, it's over 2 pages in the pattern, just writing this. Am I overthinking? Or would you be able to do, you know, complete a pattern with continue as established and cast off? You are my expert audience right now, so you could put it in. Would you want to see a full explanation of all stitches in this section, a chart, or cast off continue as established? So that is established. Pia, yes, that's cool. Yeah, I would say too, but yeah. Anyway, so this depending on how complicated I make it for myself, whether it will be ready for test knitting soon. Always confronting to have more rather than less instruction, but a chart would be fine too. Yes. Yes, sometimes the instructions can be, you know, you always get overwhelmed by, oh, do I need to know all this? Yeah, good point, Julia. What happens then when the pattern is written? Then, you know, it's read through many, many, many times. And then I sent it off to a tech editor. I have a wonderful friend who is a tech editor. Shout out to Kat. at Elephant Cat. She is tech editing my patterns, so she checks the math is correct and there isn't any obvious spelling mistakes, or it's completely not possible to understand what I'm saying. And then the pattern would be then ready for testing with testers. And I've been fortunate to have testers around the world in various sizes, and many of you might also have been testing. So that's where you very religiously have to follow the pattern, because we have to test whether what is written can actually be made and is understandable. And that always gives interesting comments back and things that we as designers may think, oh, that's obvious, or but it's read differently when it's the a new knitter knitting it up for the first time. So that takes a while, and then into the final photographies and setting up the pattern, and then final release. So it does take time. It does for me, for sure. But I think I also just wanted to illustrate that it's not just something, well, at least not for me, something that I can just whip up and then it's done and it's out there, and it does. There's a lot of work and care and detail put into every single knitting pattern. So think of that when you, well, this sounds very sort of teaching, preaching, but knitting patterns will cost money, because there are a lot of effort going into each pattern and each design. Yeah, that was half an hour, and now I'm sort of I think I've talked about what I had noted down. My day will be possibly sitting outside, enjoying the sun, plenty of coffee, and catching up on the live podcasts that have been shared throughout these previous hours. And then I will be live again in Danish and together with Tina from Hverdagsro, and that will be at 4 p.m. Australian time. So any Australians or any English-speaking sisters or brothers, you are more than welcome to join. I don't know whether you can get captions and translations live. And you can see what we are sharing and the laughs, but you won't understand probably. And that is a thing about language, because sometimes at work, for instance, I might just, talk English, and then suddenly a Danish sentence pop in. Or I turn around to a colleague and then start speaking Danish, and then they just look at me, what are you saying? And well, it's easy to understand, it's just Danish, but of course they don't know. But all good, all good. So that is 4 p.m. Australian time, and it's 8 o'clock Sunday morning in Central Europe. That is probably around midnight in the States. Oh yeah, Pia, you do that with your daughter-in-law. Yeah, this about, just, and sometimes as well speaking, and some of you who are bilingual would have the same issue, or not issue, but that you have a word either in one or the other language in your mind, and you are speaking the other language and you can't find the right word. So often I have that in, Danish. I have the word in Danish, but then can't find the word in English. But it's, again, the same time, if I talk to friends in Denmark about my work or about sort of Australian things, I can't find the Danish word because I don't know it yet. And every time moving into a new area or subject, you have to build up a new vocabulary For instance, when we bought the house, all the vocab around mortgage and loans and house and inspections and all that, that was just completely new. The same, first when we, bought a dishwasher or washing machine, or the house, what are the different aspects, gutter and, well, aspects of the house, what are they called? Well, it's a lifelong learning, but we try our best. And sometimes I just, explain what the word is and then hope it will be understood. And if I have rambled on a lot, apologies, but it's been an absolute pleasure knitting with you. We still have time if you have a burning question for me, anything you have just, oh, I just wanted to ask that question, pop it in now. And we still have 8 minutes or so. So if any questions, pop them in and I will just grab a sip of water. I have one of my colleagues, when, posing a question like that out in the open, it says always count to 8 or 10 seconds to see if something pops up. No questions at the moment. If you think of other questions, put them in the comments box below. And Quebec, Canada. Well, again, a thank you to Pia 50 Fabulous for putting this event up again. It's absolutely amazing to connect across the world over our common passion for yarn and for knitting. So it's been an absolute joy connecting and chatting with you this morning, night, evening in this episode, so this live session. So I hope you have gotten a lot of knitting done. If you're off to bed, sleep well. If you are just starting the day, have a wonderful day. Johnny, what I'm wearing, yes, I can just say what I'm wearing again. This is the gumnut tee. This is one of my designs that you can find on mindfulmaking.com.au. I will just write it here in the chat. So with that, thank you for that question. And with that, I will say lovely to see you. And oh yeah, thank you. So I'm reading the comments as well. 8 rounds on the sleeves of a Lutau pullover. Yes, and who is podcasting next? So I looked at the program, and the podcaster next is Wool and Wine, which will be in an hour, not in an hour, but 10 a.m., so at the full hour. And I hope to see you in, the next Knitathon, and also on the normal Mindful Making episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've had a wonderful time. Thumbs up, comment, and all the things that help a podcast channel glow and grow. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy your knitting.